I'm 60 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that nobody, not your parents, not your therapist, not your self-help books, will ever tell you. The reason they won't is because it's too painful, too stark, too real. I've lived 6 decades. I've buried my husband, watched friends fade away, and seen the world change in ways I never imagined. And in all that time, I've learned one truth that stays with me every single day. We're all living like we have forever, when we barely have anything at all. Let me tell you when I actually learned this. Not at 55, not at 50, at 28 years old. And it took me over 30 years to fully understand what that moment was trying to teach me. It was 2003, March 7th. I remember because it was a Friday, and I'd been planning a weekend getaway with my husband, Michael. We'd been married 6 years, had a little girl, Emma, just 4 years old. Michael worked in construction. Good man, steady. The kind who'd kiss my forehead every morning before he left and say, "See you tonight, Sarah." Except that Friday, he didn't come home. There was an accident at the site. They said it was quick. They said he didn't suffer. But they always say that, don't they? What they didn't say, what nobody tells you, is that when someone dies suddenly, they take all your unsaid words with them. Every "I love you" you didn't say, every fight you didn't apologize for, every moment you were too busy or too tired or too angry to just be present. That night, sitting at our kitchen table, I made a promise to myself. I promised I would never waste another day. I promised I would live intentionally, love openly, and never postpone joy again. And you know what? I broke that promise almost immediately. Oh, I thought I was living better. I hugged Emma more. I said "I love you" more often. But then life happens, doesn't it? I went back to work, got busy with bills, Emma grew up. I told myself I was doing fine, that I'd learned my lesson. But I hadn't, not really. Because here's what I didn't understand at 28, what took me another 3 decades to fully grasp. It's not enough to survive tragedy and tell yourself you've changed. The real lesson isn't that life is short. Every greeting card tells you that. The real lesson is that you will forget. You will slip back into autopilot. You will start believing you have time again. And that forgetting, that slow drift back into complacency, that's the real tragedy. I married again in 2008. David, sweet man. We had 12 wonderful years together before cancer took him. And you know my biggest regret about those 12 years? Not the fights we had. Not the money troubles or the disagreements. My biggest regret is all the ordinary Tuesday nights I spent scrolling through my phone instead of sitting with him. All the times I said, "Not now, I'm busy," when he wanted to take a walk. All the moments I treated like they were guaranteed. Because here's what nobody tells you about reaching my age. You don't just lose the people you love. You lose them over and over again in your memory. Every time you think about them, you remember another moment you wasted. Another conversation you were too distracted to fully hear. Another hug you cut short because you had somewhere to be. My mother died in 2015. She was 82. I remember our last real conversation. She called me on a Wednesday afternoon, just wanting to chat. And I rushed her off the phone because I had a meeting. A meeting. I don't even remember what it was about now. But I remember her voice saying, "Okay, honey, we'll talk later." We didn't talk later. Not really. She had a stroke 2 weeks after that call. You're sitting there thinking, this is depressing. Thinking, well, everyone dies eventually. But you're missing the point. The point isn't that everyone dies. The point is that you're acting like you're the exception. Like somehow your life will be different. Like you'll have time later to live the way you want to live. I'm 60 years old and I can tell you with absolute certainty, later never comes. You think you'll travel when you retire. You think you'll reconnect with your brother after this busy period at work. That busy period will last 20 years and then he'll be gone. You think you'll start writing that book, learning that language, taking that trip, having that conversation when you have more time, more money, more whatever. You won't, because here's the cruel joke. You do have time right now. You just don't value it correctly. You trade it for things that don't matter. You spend it on people who drain you. You waste it worrying about things that won't matter in 5 years. I'm not telling you to quit your job and run off to find yourself. I'm not saying ignore your responsibilities. I'm saying something much harder. I'm saying pay attention right now, today, to what you're actually doing with your one brief, unrepeatable life. Your grandmother, is she still alive? Call her today, not tomorrow. Today, because I can tell you exactly what she's doing right now. She's sitting somewhere, maybe looking at old photos, maybe just staring out a window. And she's thinking about all the people who don't call anymore, all the grandchildren who are too busy. And she's telling herself it's okay, that everyone has their own lives, that she understands. But it breaks her heart a little more each day. Your parents, if you're lucky enough to still have them, they're not going to be here forever. And when they're gone, you're not going to care about that argument you had 5 years ago. You're going to care about all the phone calls you didn't make, all the visits you postponed, all the times you could have just sat with them and didn't. My daughter Emma is 25 now. She calls me every Sunday. And you know what? It's not enough. Not because she's not a good daughter, she's wonderful, but because no amount of time is enough when you truly love someone. Every Sunday when she hangs up, I think about all the years I was too busy working to really be present with her. All the school plays I half-watched while checking emails. All the bedtime stories I rushed through. I have time now, but those moments are gone forever. Here's what you need to understand. Every goodbye might be the last one. You just don't believe it yet. I watched my neighbor's teenage son last week. He came to visit his grandfather who lives alone, and he spent the whole time looking at his phone. And I didn't say anything because what's the point? He thinks he has forever. He thinks his friend's texts are urgent. He thinks this moment, sitting with his grandfather, will always be available. It won't be. And someday, probably when he's much older, he'll remember that visit. And he'll remember that he spent it looking at his phone. And it will hurt him in ways he can't imagine yet. That's what I want to save you from. That pain, that regret. Not the regret of big mistakes. Those you can make peace with. But the regret of simple absence. Of being physically present but mentally somewhere else. Of treating the people you love like they'll always be there. They won't always be there. Here's the truth I learned 30 years too late. The moments that matter aren't the big ones. They're not your wedding day or your graduation or your promotion. Those are wonderful, but they're not what you'll think about at the end. You'll think about that Tuesday afternoon when your dad tried to show you how to change a tire, and you were patient instead of annoyed. You'll think about that random Saturday morning when you made breakfast with your kids and nobody was in a hurry. You'll think about the walk you took with your partner when you actually listened instead of planning what to say next. Those moments, the ordinary, unglamorous, utterly unremarkable moments when you were fully there, those are the ones that matter. And they're available to you right now. Today, this moment. But you have to choose them. You have to fight for them. Because everything in our world is designed to pull you away. If I could go back to 28-year-old Sarah, standing in that kitchen the night Michael died, here's what I would tell her. The promise you're making right now to never waste another day, you're going to break it. You're going to break it over and over again because you're human, and humans forget. But here's your real job. Remember and return. Every time you forget, every time you drift back into distraction and busyness and taking people for granted, notice it. And return. Return to presence. Return to attention. Return to love. Not perfectly, but persistently. I'm 60 years old. I've been alive for roughly 22,000 days. And I can count on 2 hands the number of days I was fully, completely, utterly present. That's my real regret. Not that I didn't achieve more or travel more or make more money, but that I sleepwalked through most of my own life. Don't do what I did. Don't wait 30 more years to learn this. Don't wait until the people you love are gone to realize you should have loved them better when they were here. Stop reading this and call someone you love. Stop reading this and go sit with someone in silence. Stop reading this and look, really look, at the people in your life while they're still here to be looked at. Because I promise you, with everything I have, later never comes.